Aurora Prime was a world of endless sky and sparkling crystal forests. The twin moons hung like guardians over the horizon, casting silver light that shimmered on the floating gardens and high-tech colonies. For the people living there, it was home. But for a 10-year-old girl named Leah, it was a place of endless wonder. Leah had always been curious. Her brown eyes sparkled whenever she explored the gardens or tinkered with the small robots she built from recycled parts. She lived with her parents in a cozy home near the central dome of the colony, where humans had built floating terraces connected by glass walkways. Life on Aurora Prime was safe and bright, but it was also a place that required imagination. Children needed to dream, for adventures did not come easily on a planet with shimmering skies but no wild animals or oceans to explore. Her best friend Evan was her constant companion. He was the same age as Leah, with unruly black hair and a grin that could light up any room. He loved to climb the floating terraces and jump from one platform to another, pretending he could fly. Leah would laugh and scold him at the same time, telling him to be careful, yet secretly she admired his courage. He had a way of turning the ordinary into something extraordinary. The festival that year was something Leah and Evan had been waiting for all year. Every year the colony held the Twin Moon celebration, marking the day humans had first settled on Aurora Prime. The event was full of lights, music, and games. There were floating lanterns that danced in the low-gravity air, robots performing acrobatics, and crystal displays that reflected the twin moons in colors no one had names for. Evan grabbed Leah's hand as they ran toward the central terrace.
"Race you to the top!"
he shouted, his voice full of excitement. Leah laughed and ran after him, her small legs pumping as she tried to keep up. They reached the top just as the first lanterns rose into the sky, floating gracefully above the colony. "Wow," Leah whispered, her eyes wide. The lanterns glowed in shades of blue and pink like miniature moons themselves. They looked so beautiful. Evan nodded, holding out a small, rough crystal in his palm. "Look what I made for you," he said. It wasn't perfect, far from it, but it was a tiny ring, crudely shaped, with a small crack running across it. "I promise. One day I'll give you a real one. But for now, this is mine for you." Leah felt a warmth in her chest she couldn't explain. She took the ring carefully, feeling the weight of Evan's promise more than the crystal itself. "What promise?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "I'll marry you when I grow up," Evan said simply, as if it were the most natural thing in the universe. Leah laughed, shaking her head. "You're 10 years old." "I know," Evan replied, grinning. "But promises are important. Even if we're kids, I mean it." And so under the twin moons of Aurora Prime, a promise was made. A simple one, yet it carried the weight of hope, of friendship, and of something more, something human. After the festival, Leah and Evan explored the floating gardens near their homes. The gardens were a marvel of human engineering and imagination. Crystal flowers glowed in soft colors, and streams of light flowed like rivers between the terraces. Small robotic animals designed to mimic Earth creatures wandered around. Leah had always loved the robotic birds, with their silver wings that shimmered as they fluttered above the gardens. Evan climbed a small crystalline tree and held out his hand to Leah. "Come on." "You can do it." Leah hesitated, looking down at the soft glow of the terraces below. "I don't know. It's high. You can do it. I'll catch you if you fall," Evan said, his grin wide and reassuring. With a deep breath, Leah took his hand and let him guide her up. Step by step, they climbed together, laughing all the way. When they reached the top, they looked out over the colony. The lights of the homes and terraces sparkled like stars, and the twin moons reflected off the metallic domes. "This is amazing," Leah said, letting go of Evan's hand to stretch out her arms. She felt the gentle pull of the planet's gravity and the breeze from the ventilation systems that mimicked wind. "I wish every day could be like this." Evan nodded, sitting next to her on the edge of the terrace. "It doesn't matter what day it is. As long as we're together, it's amazing." Leah smiled, feeling a strange, happy warmth. She realized then that Evan was more than just a friend. He was someone who made ordinary days extraordinary. Over the next few weeks, their adventures continued. They built small hovercrafts from leftover parts, racing across the colony's glass walkways. They created tiny robotic pets and programmed them to follow their commands. They even mapped secret paths between terraces that adults had forgotten, Each day, Leah and Evan learned something new, not just about the world around them, but about each other. One evening, while the sky was painted in shades of orange and pink by Aurora Prime's twin suns, Evan handed Leah a notebook. "Here," he said, "this is for us. We can write down our dreams, our promises, and everything we want to do when we grow up." Leah opened it, finding pages filled with sketches of flying machines, robots, and even a small drawing of the twin moons. "This is amazing," she whispered. "We'll never forget our dreams," Evan smiled. "Exactly. And one day we'll make them real. Together." The bond between them deepened with each passing day. They shared secrets, dreams, and small victories. They learned to trust each other completely, a rare and beautiful trait in a world where life on a new planet demanded caution and creativity. The human ability to form deep emotional connections, even across challenging environments, was clear in everything they did. As the years went by, the two 10-year-olds began to imagine the future. They spoke of interstellar travel, of discovering new worlds, and of building machines that could do incredible things. But no matter how far their dreams stretched, the promise Evan had made always stayed with Leah. She kept the small crystal ring close, a reminder of friendship, trust, and the simple, powerful promise, "I'll marry you when I grow up." One night, after the colony had quieted and the twin moons hung silently in the sky, Leah whispered to the ring, "I'll wait for you, Evan, no matter what." And somewhere, under the same sky, Evan made the same promise to himself, though he didn't say it aloud. They were just children, yet their hearts carried a weight of loyalty, hope, and the human capacity to hold on to promises that spanned time and distance. Life on Aurora Prime was bright and safe, but it wasn't perfect. Sometimes storms would disrupt the floating terraces and small technical failures would happen. But together, Leah and Evan learned to solve problems, to adapt, and to trust each other. That was what made them human, resilient, resourceful, and able to form bonds that could withstand the small challenges of life on a new world. The festival, the ring, the gardens, and their secret adventures became the foundation of a friendship that would last a lifetime. And though 10-year-olds could not fully understand the future, they felt it in their hearts that this promise was something extraordinary, a seed of hope in a vast, glittering universe. As Leah lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling and the soft glow of the twin moons through her window, she felt a quiet certainty. Life would change, people would grow, and the world around them would transform. But some things, trust, friendship, promises, and the human heart, were unchangeable. Years passed on Aurora Prime, and the colony grew larger and brighter. New terraces floated higher in the sky, connected by shimmering bridges. Machines hummed in harmony with humans' daily lives, and robotic helpers were everywhere. Children who had once played under the twin moons now navigated more complex routines. School, training, and preparations for adulthood on a planet that demanded creativity and intelligence. Leah had grown taller, her brown eyes now filled with determination and curiosity. She was no longer the small girl racing Evan through floating gardens. She was a young teenager with a mind for science, especially robotics and artificial intelligence. Every day she worked with her instructors and fellow students on designing machines that could explore Aurora Prime's forests and crystal caves, mapping the planet in ways humans never had before. Despite her busy life, she never forgot Evan. The small crystal ring he had given her as a child rested in a drawer, a reminder of a promise made under the twin moons. Sometimes when she was alone in the labs or walking through the silent terraces at night, she would take it out, turn it in her fingers, and smile. A small warmth would rise in her chest as memories of laughter, races, and secret adventures filled her mind. Evan, too, had changed. He was tall now, with sharp features and the same unruly hair, but he carried himself with a new confidence. The colony had always been small for him, and his curiosity could not be contained. When he turned 12, he left Aurora Prime to join the Interstellar Research Academy, a school where humans trained to explore distant worlds. The first year apart was hard. Letters traveled slowly, even with advanced communication tech. Messages were often brief, filled with updates on school, robotics projects, and Aurora Prime news. Leah read each letter with eagerness, sometimes reading and rereading Evan's words as if trying to catch the sound of his voice. But over time, the letters became fewer. Evan's academy work demanded long hours, experiments, and team projects that took him far from the colony. Leah missed him terribly, but she focused on her own goals. She wanted to design the most advanced robotic explorers Aurora Prime had ever seen. Nights were long, filled with tinkering and studying, yet she always returned to her memories of Evan. The promise he had made, the crystal ring, remained a symbol of hope, a reminder that even if life pulled them apart, some bonds could remain strong. Aurora Prime continued to evolve. New floating terraces were built to host laboratories and schools, and humans had begun experimenting with small interstellar communication devices. Leah excelled in her studies, often staying after hours to work on her projects. She became known for her clever designs and her ability to solve problems others could not. Her teachers noticed her determination, her intelligence, and her kindness, traits that set her apart even among other talented students. Meanwhile, Evan's life at the academy was full of challenges. He trained alongside other young humans preparing for exploration missions beyond Aurora Prime. He learned about alien worlds, zero-gravity survival, and advanced robotics. Evan's days were long and filled with study, practice, and competitions. Yet no matter how far he traveled in knowledge, he never forgot Leah. He kept the memory of the crystal ring close, often glancing at it before sleep and remembering the laughter and dreams they had shared. Even as their lives pulled them in different directions, both Leah and Evan grew stronger, wiser, and more human in ways that were visible to everyone around them. Leah's empathy, curiosity, and patience became tools that helped her invent robots capable of helping humans navigate difficult terrain. Evan's courage, determination, and intelligence allowed him to excel in training, understanding complex machines and exploring simulations of distant planets. Occasionally, the colony held small festivals, and sometimes Evan managed to send a message, promising he would visit soon. Each time Leah received a message, her heart leapt with excitement. She would plan what she would show him, remembering the games, the floating gardens, and the secret paths only they had known. Even as teenagers growing apart, their hearts stayed connected through the small crystal ring and the promise it represented. One evening, as the twin moons rose in the sky, Leah sat on her balcony overlooking the floating terraces. The lights of the colony twinkled below, and the streams of crystal flowers glowed softly in the dim light. She held the crystal ring in her hand and whispered, "I hope you'll come back one day. Evan, no matter what happens, I'll wait." At that very moment, far away at the Interstellar Research Academy, Evan looked at his own crystal ring. He smiled, thinking of her. "I will come back, Leah, I promise. One day." He didn't say it aloud, for no one could hear him, but the promise was as real as it had been under the twin moons when they were children. Time passed. Leah completed her teenage years, graduating from the colony's science program with honors. She was no longer the little girl who had raced Evan through floating gardens, but a young woman ready to explore new horizons. Her projects had been recognized by senior scientists, and she had earned a position leading a small team of explorers tasked with mapping Aurora Prime's crystal forests. She felt proud, but she also felt a quiet longing for her childhood friend. Evan's journey continued as well. He graduated from the academy and began participating in research missions beyond Aurora Prime. He traveled to nearby planets, testing robotic explorers, studying alien terrains, and sending reports back to human colonies. Yet every time he saw a beautiful crystal formation or a floating terrace, he thought of Leah. He remembered the promise, the laughter, and the small adventures they had shared. Even as their lives became busier, both Leah and Evan realized something remarkable. Human hearts had an extraordinary ability to stay loyal across time and distance. While technology could carry their letters and messages, it could not replace the emotions, memories, and bonds that connected them. They had learned to grow independently, yet their connection had never weakened. On Aurora Prime, Leah often took walks through the crystal forests, testing small robots and imagining the day she would explore further with Evan. She wondered how much he had grown, how he had changed, and whether he still remembered the promise he had made. She sometimes imagined the moment he would return, holding a real ring in his hand, and felt a spark of excitement that made her work even harder. Meanwhile, Evan trained rigorously, studying robotics, alien ecosystems, and interstellar travel. He dreamed of returning to Aurora Prime and seeing Leah again. He wanted to show her what he had learned, the machines he had built and the discoveries he had made. But most of all, he wanted to keep the promise he had made as a child, a promise that had grown in his heart with every passing year. One quiet evening, the colony held a small celebration to honor young explorers and scientists. Leah attended with her team, presenting her latest robotic designs. The twin moons shone brightly above, casting silver light on the terraces. As she spoke to the audience, she noticed a faint glimmer in the distance, a reminder of the world beyond her immediate surroundings, and perhaps a hint that some dreams were meant to come true. As the celebration ended, Leah returned to her balcony, holding the crystal ring. She thought of Evan, wondering if he was looking at the moons as well, remembering their adventures and thinking of her. She smiled, feeling a strong sense of hope and determination. Life had pulled them apart, but the promise remained. Evan, at that same moment, was on a research station orbiting a distant moon. He looked at a tiny holographic display of Aurora Prime, seeing the floating terraces and lights of the colony. He touched the crystal ring he had kept for years and whispered, "I'll come back for you, Leah, I promise." Human beings were remarkable. Even across light years, even when separated by years and responsibilities, they could hold on to what mattered most. Loyalty, hope, love, and friendship. These were qualities that defined humans, even on a distant planet like Aurora Prime. Leah and Evan's bond was proof of that. Though they were growing apart physically, their hearts remained close. They had learned the value of patience, the strength of determination, and the beauty of promises kept. And while they did not know exactly what the future would bring, they were certain of one thing. When the time came, they would find each other again. The crystal ring, small and simple, had become a symbol of their journey. It represented their childhood, their dreams, and the human ability to endure separation without losing connection. It was a reminder that no matter how far life stretched or how busy or distant they became, some bonds were unbreakable. Years had passed since Leah and Evan had last seen each other on Aurora Prime. The colony had grown larger, its terraces stretching higher into the sky, connected by sleek glass walkways and glowing bridges. Robots moved gracefully among humans, performing daily tasks, while advanced machines monitored the forests, rivers of light, and crystal formations that covered the planet. Leah had grown into a confident young adult, her brown eyes full of determination and curiosity. Her hair was longer now, often tied back as she worked in the colony's research labs. She led a team of young engineers and scientists, designing robots capable of exploring Aurora Prime's forests and crystal caves. These robots were small but clever, able to navigate tricky terrain, analyze samples, and communicate back with the lab. Leah had poured years of study and imagination into their designs, and she was proud of every success. Despite her busy life, she never forgot Evan. The small crystal ring he had given her as a child rested safely in a drawer in her room, a reminder of a promise made under the twin moons. She sometimes held it, turning it in her fingers, remembering their races through the floating gardens, the laughter, and the secret paths only they had known. She had grown, but the memory of Evan and the promise he had made had grown with her. Evan's journey had taken him far from Aurora Prime. After completing the Interstellar Research Academy, he had joined missions that explored planets beyond the colony's sector. He had studied alien ecosystems, robotic exploration, and interstellar communication technology. Yet no matter how far he traveled, he never forgot Leah. He had kept the crystal ring she had worn as a child, and often looked at it, remembering her smile, her intelligence, and the warmth of her presence. One evening, as Leah worked late in the lab, she noticed a faint signal on the interstellar communication console. It was unusual, not like the standard colony messages or routine updates from the research network. The signal pulsed gently, like a heartbeat. Her curiosity piqued. She leaned closer, analyzing the data. Her heart skipped when she noticed a familiar pattern embedded in the signal, the outline of a small crystal ring. She froze, staring at the display. Could it be? No one else in the colony would know the symbol she had kept for years. Her hands trembled slightly as she accessed the full transmission. The message contained coordinates, a location within Aurora Prime's floating terraces, and a simple note encoded in a way only she would understand. The note read, "Meet me where the twin moons shine on the highest terrace." "I've kept my promise." Leah's breath caught. She felt a wave of excitement, disbelief, and hope. It had been years since she had last seen Evan, and now he had found a way to reach her, even across interstellar distances. She smiled, feeling a rush of memories from their childhood adventures. The crystal ring, the laughter, the secret paths, they were all coming back to life in her mind. Without wasting a moment, Leah gathered her team and explained that she would be away for a short period. Her colleagues understood. She was known for her dedication, and they trusted her judgment. She prepared herself for the journey to the terrace, her heart racing with anticipation. As she made her way through the colony, the twin moons rose above the horizon, casting a soft silver light over the terraces. The air was crisp and filled, with the gentle hum of machinery and the soft glow of crystal flowers. Every step she took reminded her of the childhood races with Evan, of climbing crystal trees, and of the nights they had spent dreaming about the future. Meanwhile, Evan was already on the terrace, waiting. He had traveled back from a distant research station with a small ship capable of landing quietly on Aurora Prime's terraces. He had spent years designing a way to send Leah a signal that would carry not only his coordinates, but also the memory of their promise. The small holographic display of the crystal ring had been his way of reaching her across the distance, letting her know that he had not forgotten, that he had returned. Evan looked out over the terrace, his heart pounding with excitement and nerves. The years apart had changed them both, but he hoped the bond they had built as children would remain strong. He held a small, hand-crafted ring in his hand. Real, this time, shaped from the rare crystals of Aurora Prime, polished to shine under the twin moons. It was a symbol of his loyalty, his love, and the promise he had made years ago. As Leah approached the terrace, she saw him. He looked taller, more mature, and yet the familiar warmth in his eyes was unmistakable. She felt a rush of emotions: joy, surprise, and a deep, comforting sense of recognition. Evan smiled as soon as he saw her, and in that instant it was as if no time had passed at all. "Leah," he said softly, stepping forward. "I kept my promise." Leah felt tears welling up in her eyes. You really came back," she whispered, her voice trembling. She held out her hand, and he took it gently, just as they had done when they were children. They walked together across the terrace, pointing out changes and marveling at familiar sights. The floating gardens had grown, new terraces had been built, but some secret paths remained the same, the paths they had explored as children. They laughed as they reminisced, sharing stories of their adventures, the projects they had worked on, and the dreams they had pursued. Evan showed Leah the small ring he had crafted, placing it in her hand. "I wanted you to have a real one," he said. "Not just the crystal from our childhood, something that lasts just like our promise." Leah held the ring, feeling its weight and the care that Evan had put into making it. "It's beautiful," she said softly, looking into his eyes. "I can't believe you remembered after all these years." "I could never forget," Evan replied. "No matter where I went, no matter what I did, I remembered. You were always here." He tapped his chest over his heart. "You still are." They spent hours on the terrace talking, laughing, and simply being together. The twin moons hung above them just as they had all those years ago, casting silver light over the floating terraces and crystal gardens. It felt as if time had folded, bringing together the past and present in a single perfect moment. Leah realized then what she had always known deep down: human hearts were extraordinary. They could remember, hope, and feel deeply, even across distance and time. Evan's journey had taken him far and wide, but his return proved that loyalty, care, and love could bridge any gap. Evan, for his part, marveled at Leah's growth. She had become intelligent, capable, and full of determination, exactly the person he had always known she would be. But more than that, she had retained the kindness, curiosity, and warmth that had drawn him to her as a child. He felt proud, grateful, and more certain than ever that the promise he had made under the twin moons was meant to last a lifetime. As the night deepened, they climbed to the highest point of the terrace. The twin moons glowed brighter, reflecting off the crystal flowers and glass walkways. Evan knelt and held out the polished ring. "Leah," he said, his voice steady, "I promised you when we were children that I would come back. I've kept my promise. Will you marry me when the time is right?" Leah's eyes widened, tears spilling over. She had waited for this moment for years, and now it had arrived. Her heart swelled with happiness, and she nodded, a smile spreading across her face. "Yes, Evan," she whispered. "I've waited, and I will." They embraced, feeling the years of separation melt away. The promise made in childhood had endured the tests of time, distance, and growth. It had become a testament to human resilience, loyalty, and the power of connection. For hours they walked through the terraces, talking about the future, their dreams, and the adventures they would share. Evan told stories of distant worlds, strange landscapes, and robotic explorers he had designed. Leah shared her own achievements, the challenges she had faced, and the robots she had built. Together, they imagined a future filled with exploration, discovery, and joy, an adventure not just of planets and technology but of hearts intertwined. The twin moons slowly sank below the horizon, leaving a soft glow over the terraces. Leah and Evan sat together, watching the lights of the colony twinkle below. For a moment, all the challenges of growing up, learning, and exploring seemed distant. What mattered most was here, in this moment, with the promise fulfilled, the bond unbroken, and the future waiting for them to shape together. In that quiet night, under the same sky that had witnessed their childhood promise, Leah and Evan discovered something remarkable. Humans had the ability to endure, to hope, and to return. Across years and worlds, across growth and change, they had found each other again. The twin moons had set, leaving Aurora Prime bathed in the soft, gentle glow of the colony's lights. Leah and Evan walked along the floating terraces, the crystal flowers around them shimmering faintly, their light reflecting off the glass walkways. The colony had changed since their childhood, but the familiar sights, the secret paths, the winding terraces, and the soft hum of the robots made them feel as if time had folded back to when they were 10 years old. "It's amazing how much has changed," Leah said, her eyes scanning the terraces that now stretched higher and farther than ever. "And yet, some things feel just the same." Evan nodded, smiling. "I think some things are meant to stay the same, like this moment, and us." He reached out and took her hand, holding it gently. "I never forgot you, Leah, not for a single day." Leah felt her heart warm. It had been years since they had last seen each other, yet the connection between them felt effortless, natural. They walked together to the floating gardens they had once explored as children. The crystal trees glowed faintly in the night, and the robotic birds flitted among the branches, their silver wings reflecting the lights of the terraces. "Remember this tree?" Evan asked, pointing to a tall crystal tree near the center of the garden. "We climbed it together that night during the Twin Moon Festival." Leah smiled, her eyes lighting up. "I remember. You held my hand the whole way." She laughed softly. "I thought I might fall, but you made me feel safe." "I promised I'd always be there," Evan said, his voice soft but steady. "Even if it took years for me to return, I was always here, in my heart." They spent hours wandering the terraces, visiting secret paths, and rediscovering their childhood spots. They found the small crystal stream where they had once tried to build a hovercraft from spare parts. Though the stream had been widened and polished for the colony's maintenance robots, it still held the same quiet magic. They laughed as they remembered their early attempts at invention, the small failures, and the endless enthusiasm that had driven them to try again and again. As they walked, Evan shared his adventures from distant worlds, strange terrains, alien crystals, and robotic explorers he had built to navigate unknown landscapes. Leah listened intently, fascinated. She asked questions, learned about his experiences, and shared her own achievements from her work on Aurora Prime. Their conversations flowed easily, a blend of curiosity, admiration, and deep care. You've grown so much, Evan said at one point, pausing to look at her. You're brilliant, Leah. I knew you'd be amazing, but seeing it now, I'm even more impressed. Leah felt her cheeks warm. And you've done incredible things too. You've traveled so far and learned so much. I'm proud of you, Evan. There was a quiet moment where they simply stood, holding hands and gazing at the lights of the colony. The twin moons had long vanished below the horizon, but the magic of their shared memories and promise filled the air. I'm glad we're here together again, Leah said softly. After all these years, Evan nodded. Me too, it feels like coming home. They continued to explore the terraces late into the night. They visited the floating gardens where they had once raced, climbed the crystal trees they had dared to conquer, and even retraced the hidden paths that only they had known. With each step, they rediscovered not only the physical spaces of their childhood, but also the emotional landscapes, the trust, care, and joy that had bound them together. Eventually, they reached the topmost terrace of the colony, the highest point where the twin moons had always seemed closest during their childhood festivals. The view was breathtaking. Aurora Prime stretched below them, its lights twinkling like stars, while the floating terraces reflected the colors of the crystal gardens. In the distance, the new colonies glimmered like distant constellations. I can't believe we're standing here again, Leah said, her voice filled with awe. It's beautiful, just like I remembered. Evan smiled, kneeling slightly to hold the polished crystal ring he had given her the previous night. I wanted to show you something more. Not just a promise, but a symbol of it. Something we can carry forward into our future. Leah looked at the ring, its glow reflecting her own excitement. It's perfect, she whispered, tears forming in her eyes. It's everything we've dreamed about since we were children. Evan gently took her hand, slipping the ring onto her finger. I've waited a long time for this moment, he said softly. But waiting made it even more special. Now we can create new memories together as adults, just like we promised as kids. Leah's heart swelled. We really did it, she said, smiling through her tears. We grew up, and we kept our promise. The two of them spent the rest of the night talking about the future. They spoke of dreams, ambitions, and adventures they wanted to share. They imagined traveling together beyond Aurora Prime, exploring new worlds and designing robots to help humans reach places no one had ever gone. Every word they spoke strengthened their bond, and every laugh reminded them of the joy and trust that had always connected them. At one point, Evan paused, looking out over the terraces. I know life will take us to many places, he said, but I want us to face it together, not just as childhood friends, but as partners. We've learned so much, and now we can use that knowledge to support each other no matter what comes next. Leah nodded, squeezing his hand. I couldn't agree more. We've grown so much, but our hearts, our promise, it's stronger than ever. They walked slowly back through the floating gardens as the first light of Aurora Prime's twin suns began to appear on the horizon. The sky shifted from deep blue to soft pink and orange, and the crystals on the terraces reflected the sunrise in dazzling patterns. Leah and Evan paused to watch, holding hands and sharing a quiet moment of peace. This is just the beginning, Evan said softly, his voice filled with hope. Our adventures, our discoveries, and everything we've dreamed of. It's all ahead of us. Leah smiled, feeling a sense of calm and excitement she had never experienced before. Yes, she said. Together we can face anything. As the colony woke to a new day, Leah and Evan walked side by side, their bond renewed and strengthened. They had reconnected across time, distance, and years of growth. The promise made under the twin moons of their childhood had endured, becoming a foundation for their shared future. Humanity was remarkable in its ability to hope, to endure, and to remain connected despite challenges. Leah and Evan's story was proof of that. They had grown apart physically, yet their hearts had remained close. They had learned the value of patience, perseverance, and loyalty. And now, standing together under the first light of dawn, they were ready to embrace the next chapter of their lives. The floating gardens, crystal terraces, and robotic birds became a backdrop for a new adventure. One filled not with challenges or dangers, but with discovery, imagination, and the human capacity to dream. Leah and Evan's hearts, their minds, and their promise had reunited them, creating a bond that no distance or time could break. Even as they explored the colony and planned for the future, they knew one thing. The connection they had built as children was a treasure beyond measure. It was a testament to the resilience, hope, and loyalty of humans. It was proof that even across years and worlds, some promises were meant to last forever, and so, on Aurora Prime, two young humans, no longer children, but grown and capable, stood together under the morning sky. Their hearts were full, their dreams shared, and their bond unbreakable. The crystal ring glinted softly on Leah's finger, a reminder that the past, present, and future were connected by one simple promise, that love, friendship, and hope could endure across time and space. The day was just beginning, but for Leah and Evan it already held endless possibilities. They had reconnected, rediscovered each other, and strengthened a promise that had shaped their lives. Now the future was theirs to explore together. Aurora Prime was waking up under the soft glow of its twin suns. Light streamed across the floating terraces, reflecting off crystal flowers and glass walkways, bathing the colony in shimmering colors. It was a day that promised new beginnings, yet for Leah and Evan, it was the culmination of a promise made years ago, a promise that had endured distance, time, and growth. Leah woke early, her heart fluttering with excitement. She had spent the night thinking about what the day would bring, remembering the childhood promise, the crystal ring, and the way Evan had returned to fulfill it. She dressed simply, her hair tied back, and slipped the polished crystal ring onto her finger, the one Evan had given her the night he returned. It glinted in the morning light, a symbol of loyalty, hope, and enduring friendship. Evan was already at the top terrace, preparing a small space for what he had planned. He had chosen the highest terrace in the colony, a place where the twin suns rose together over the horizon, their light painting the sky with gold, pink, and orange. He had arranged crystal lanterns and small robotic lights, creating a soft glow that would enhance the natural beauty of the sunrise. When Leah arrived, Evan was waiting, smiling warmly. His eyes held the same excitement and tenderness that had first drawn her to him as a child. He stepped forward, taking her hand gently. "Good morning, Leah," he said softly. "Are you ready for this?" Leah smiled, her eyes shining. "I think I've been ready my whole life," she said, laughing softly. Her heart raced with happiness and anticipation. They walked together to the center of the terrace where Evan had set up a small platform. It was simple yet elegant, with crystals reflecting the first light of dawn. The colony below was just beginning to stir, but here, above the terraces, it felt as if the world was theirs alone. "Leah," Evan said, turning to face her fully. He knelt on one knee, holding out a small crystal ring, polished to shine brilliantly under the twin suns. "When we were children, I promised you I would come back. I promised I would keep my word. Today I want to honor that promise, not as a child, but as someone who has grown, learned, and loved you all these years." Leah felt tears welling up in her eyes. She knelt beside him, taking his hands in hers. "Evan, you've kept your promise for all these years," she whispered. "Even when we were apart, even when life carried us in different directions, you never forgot. I've waited, and I've hoped every day that you would return." Evan smiled, gently lifting her hands. "And I am here, now and always. Will you marry me, Leah? Will you share your life with me, exploring not only Aurora Prime but every adventure the future holds?" Leah's heart swelled with joy. The years of longing, the distance, and the challenges they had faced melted away in that moment. She smiled through her tears, nodding. "Yes, Evan," she said softly. "Yes, I will." Evan slipped the polished crystal ring onto her finger, and in that instant it was as if the entire universe celebrated their bond. The twin suns rose higher, casting golden light across the terrace, illuminating their smiles, their hands entwined, and the crystal lanterns that glowed around them. The colony below seemed to shimmer with happiness, as if the planet itself recognized the fulfillment of the promise. After a moment of quiet joy, they walked hand in hand through the terrace gardens. The robotic birds flitted around them, their silver wings catching the sunlight. Crystal flowers glowed softly, as if in applause, reflecting every color of the morning sky. The floating terraces stretched out like a maze of light and wonder, but now every path felt familiar, safe, and full of promise. "I can't believe this is real," Leah said, laughing softly. "It feels like a dream." Evan squeezed her hand. "It's real," he said firmly. "We made it real, together." They returned to the secret paths of their childhood, the hidden corners where they had shared laughter, stories, and dreams. Every step was a rediscovery, every glance a reminder of the bond that had endured for years. They revisited the small stream where they had tried building hovercrafts and the crystal tree where they had once raced to the top. It was a walk through memory and time, a celebration of growth, imagination, and the human heart. As the day continued, they climbed to the highest terrace again. Evan had prepared a small ceremony, not grand or elaborate, but full of thought and meaning. He had invited a few close friends and colleagues who had witnessed their growth, people who had admired their determination, intelligence, and kindness. The gathering was quiet and joyful, full of warmth rather than spectacle. Evan turned to Leah, taking her hands once more. "Leah, this is not just a promise kept," he said softly. "It is a beginning of adventures, of dreams, and of a life we will build together. I want every day to be full of curiosity, laughter, and discovery, with you by my side." Leah's eyes glistened with tears, and she nodded. "I want that too, Evan, every day side by side. We can explore the stars, build incredible things, and share everything, just like we dreamed." They exchanged words of commitment, promises to nurture, support, and love each other. It was not a grand ceremony of crowns or thrones, but a human celebration of connection, loyalty, and shared dreams. The essence of their union was trust, respect, and the human capacity to remember and honor what mattered most. Afterward, they walked through the terraces, sharing quiet laughter and soft conversation. They spoke of future projects, of distant worlds they wished to explore, and of the robots and machines they would build together. Their plans were filled with imagination, curiosity, and human ingenuity. Every idea reflected their growth, intelligence, and the bond that had carried them through years apart. At one point, they stopped on a terrace overlooking the entire colony. The twin suns were high in the sky, casting a warm golden glow across the floating terraces and crystal gardens. Humans moved below, tending gardens, walking along glass paths, and admiring the beauty of Aurora Prime. The colony was alive, vibrant, and full of potential, just like Leah and Evan. "Do you remember when we promised each other under the twin moons?" Leah asked softly, smiling at Evan. "I do," Evan replied, his eyes bright. "And now we've made that promise real, not just as children, but as humans capable of making dreams come true. That's what makes us special." Leah laughed softly, leaning into him. "Yes, humans can endure, remember, and return. We can grow, learn, and still keep what is important." They sat together on the terrace, watching the sun glint off the crystals, the floating terraces, and the glimmering gardens below. It was a moment of quiet reflection and joy. They had fulfilled a promise that had spanned years, distance, and growth. Their bond was a testament to the human heart, capable of loyalty, hope, and love that endured across time. As the day continued, they explored the colony with renewed energy. They visited laboratories, shared meals with friends, and laughed over memories of childhood adventures. Every corner of Aurora Prime seemed brighter, every crystal more dazzling because they shared it together. The evening arrived, and the twin moons began to rise again. Leah and Evan climbed to the highest terrace to watch the familiar sight, remembering the festivals of their childhood. Lanterns floated in the air, robotic birds glided gracefully, and the soft glow of the terraces reflected in the crystal gardens. The night was calm, beautiful, and filled with the magic of connection. Evan turned to Leah, smiling softly. "This is the life we dreamed of," he said. "A life full of discovery, adventure, and laughter. And the best part is that we share it together." Leah nodded, holding his hand. "Yes, and it all started with a simple promise, a crystal ring, and a belief in each other." They stood together under the twin moons, the stars above, and the glowing terraces below. It was a moment that captured the essence of humanity: resilience, hope, loyalty, and love. They had grown apart, yet their hearts had stayed connected. They had learned, explored, and returned. And now they faced the future together, stronger, wiser, and more human than ever. As they looked out over Aurora Prime, they knew that life would continue to bring challenges, discoveries, and wonders. But whatever came next, they would face it side by side. Their promise had been fulfilled, but their journey was only beginning. The crystal ring on Leah's finger caught the light of the twin moons, a symbol of loyalty, hope, and the enduring human spirit. In that quiet, perfect moment, they understood the truth of their story, that humans could dream, endure, and return, that promises made from the heart could last a lifetime, that love, friendship, and hope were among the greatest powers of all.